Well, hello there, YouTubers and tuberettes alike around the known universe and other places. It's a short talk at the trailer park with an old guy. I'm on the porch step today. It's about 11 o'clock on a Friday, and I'm still all dressed up for work. I got in today, and there's really nothing to do, and I just thought, what? So they were trying to send me maybe off to a couple of jobs that I told them, look, one of them had to do with some sort of heat mass thing with a circulating loop underground and maybe a leak somewhere. Where? How do you find it? I don't know. And I told him I have never dealt with that stuff. I don't want to break it because it's like, gee, I wonder what this thing does. And then they had another call having to do with those irritating faucets that were designed by some brilliant, Einsteinian type dude. Those ones you stick your hand under it in a commercial application. It's got a sensor, throws water, never enough, and then it's never warm, by the way. And then you pull your hand out and then it's supposed to shut off. Well, one of them, the timer wasn't working right. It was shutting off too soon. And I thought, what are you supposed to do about that? Is there an adjustment? I don't know. So at any rate, I bombed out of a couple of jobs that I could have done. I did go by it's called Taqueria El Cometa Autentico, something or other. Anyway, it's a Mexican food place. We did some work in there several weeks ago. Somebody came back in and hung the urinal up. It's working, and that's news to me. And so I sent the office that. It's like, hey, in case you didn't know, somebody did rehang the urinal. Maybe that was one of our guys. I don't know. And the mystery continues. I came out here about an hour ago before the heat's coming on, but it ain't bad yet. And so pulled the weeds in the yard. Of course, you can't see that part. There's this little green spot that I take care of. It's like 15 feet long, wide, maybe 30 feet long, 25 feet, I don't know. So anyway, of course, every kind of weed known to man loves to congregate there. So I got a weed stabber and, put the water on it, loosen up the dirt, and pull those suckers out as best I can right from the roots. And so anyway, that's been my big day. I was going to go take care of, I've got a side job tomorrow having to do with a toilet and restoring hot water at a sink. This is for a guy I've known for years at church. He's I think he's almost 80 or something. It's weird because he doesn't look anywhere near his own age. You could easily mistake him for a guy in his early 70s. And anyway, whatever the point being there is that he's been having trouble with this toilet, and his son-in-law could not master the fact that the flange on the toilet was bad. And so this has stumped them, I think, for weeks now, this toilet being off the floor. I went over and took a look at it the other day, and I thought, well, you could always put in a repair ring, duh. So, well, we'll see what happens there. And maybe I can get in. So I tried to call him after I was done pulling weeds, and I watched some videos. Oh, by the way, AJ, and you know who I'm talking about. There's a young lady, gosh, Liz Wheeler. Liz is a real enjoyable young conservative lady, and she's doing a pretty good interview with AJ. I watched that just a few minutes ago, or listened to it mostly because there's not a lot to see. But the thing is that you know who this guy is, and if I say his name, then the algorithm flips out. But Alex is a very interesting dude, and I like his input, I like his attitude, and it looks like he may be in for some serious action. People trying to shut him down, close his mouth publicly because he's making known certain things which certain people would rather not have become public. And so he predicted the assassination on the 13th. He predicted to the day when Biden was going to step down. And speaking of that, I was just thinking, now wait a minute, we've got a woman here who canvassed for 0 votes. She went to 0 meetings to try to convince voters to vote for her in Democratic primaries. And with just a few phone calls, all of the delegates necessary are now on board. Really? What's that all about? Oh, and by the way, I guess I owe you an apology. Last time I spoke with you, I did imply or say that, in fact, the poodle was DOA. I don't know if the guy's alive. This is the weirdest thing in the world, the way they're managing this. They have the guy sign off from his presidential job on X. What? With a phony signature at the bottom. The White House, you would think they would be the ones to announce, oh, by the way, the government is now becoming aware of the fact that the chief executive is, shall we say, senile, demented, perverted, and a corrupt felon. He's stepping down because they don't want him there. Well, that never happened. So this week has been, in terms of, I think I mentioned this last time, this week has just been really weird in terms of how it's dragging on. And so this Friday morning, I thought, what am I doing here? So after I found out that there was no work, that was only 8:45. I went down and had a real nice breakfast at the pit stop, and boy, I sure like that sausage down there. I'm usually not a big sausage eater, but maybe I should find out what this guy's brand is, because it's really spicy, it's really good. So if you want a nice solid breakfast, go on down to the pit stop. That guy knows how to cook an egg, let me tell you. But just sitting there thinking about some oddball ideas today, and I thought, well, you know, there's an element in us, and so I'm veering off. I'm becoming, fixated on my own ideas again. So we're no longer talking about the news. But have you ever noticed how normal it would appear to be for someone to say things like, "Gosh, I just can't believe how time flies. It's just amazing. I can't believe another year went by," or something. Well, or they could say, "Man, this thing is really dragging on and on. Does it ever end?" And so we can readily identify that as, that sounds like fairly sane talk to me. But yet, if you ask people if they really agree that time, in fact, does move at different speeds from time to time. There's a guy named Rupert Sheldrake, who believes that time, the time of travel of speed of light varies. That it's up and down sometimes. And the number they came up with, 186,000 miles, 000, that's the exact number. That was just by fiat. It wasn't by measurement. And the thing moves around. Well, what's today's speed limit? Well, anyway, a little bit like that. What if time sometimes really does move at different speeds? It's weird because you can get people to immediately empathize and understand, and yet ask them to affirm it as a thing that says, well, frankly, it really does move faster. It really does slow down from time to time. It's weird, man. So there's these things in us where we know, on one hand, personal experience, and yet we will never admit publicly. So I was thinking about the visit. I got an ant crawling on me. With Netanyahu here, he's trying to drum up support in the US of A for a big war with Iran. What a great idea that would be, huh? Yeah, ooh, you could sell popcorn and stuff. But the idea of a war with Iran, what a train wreck of an idea. The US and Israel versus them guys, oh yeah, that looks real good on paper, except you forgot Russia, didn't you? And you forgot that Russia and China are real buddies these days. They're like, Siamese twins almost, in terms of their policy. Whatever the other one is for, I'm for. In other words, they didn't even sign a treaty, these guys, Putin and Xi Jinping. They're blood brothers, that's all. So now you want to start a war, Benny, over there, with now China, Russia, and Iran against you and the U.S., who is, shall we say, stumbling badly and flat broke. And we're in the middle of this crazy voters season where who knows what's going to happen this fall. I can't predict it, but I mean, I've heard talk that possibly with a war moving on, if it really does start, bang, go boom, then you could postpone the elections now, couldn't you? Just a temporary measure, emergency measure. That's the way that all tyranny starts. Short-term emergency measures. Trust me, folks, this is only for a few days. Remember, the COVID bump was going to be, 14 days? Just give us 2 weeks and we'll beat this curve, right? Didn't happen. And then, 9 months into it, they were still talking about masks and stuff, even though everyone knew, even by the spring of 20, that trying to block a virus with a paper mask is like trying to stop a mosquito invasion with chicken wire. I mean, you can try it, I guess. And anyway, the point being is that we have these weird ideas in our heads where, as an example, the time one, where on one hand we feel that it does move faster, we feel that it does move slower, and yet we would never admit that that's actually the case. A little bit like the speed of light. What do you mean? Why is it running faster today? Well, anyhow, we have an idea being introduced into the community called, hey, let's all get together and have a downright condemnation of war. It is destructive, it is brutal, it is profiteering, it serves the purposes of wickedness and greed. So let's go have one. Because let's face it, we're flat broke, and we need to unify the people around something other than the fact that we're failing. We want to give them something to cheer for. So, looking over things today, I'm just sitting there thinking, what a weird day. I thought I'd be working, doing plumbing and stuff, and here I am picking weeds and making videos and whatnot, and trying to line up a side job that I can't get the guy to pick up the phone. So anyhow, I've entrusted this day to the Lord and said, you tell me what to do today, because all of my plans have gone awry, as it were. And I guess we've got to be willing, in a way, to surrender our schedules, to admit that I'm not the one who's making the difference in this world. There's certain things that I simply don't and can't do things about, except pray. And to speak to others, and to work for decency in the community and honesty to prevail, that the justice which needs to be done would be done, and those guilty ones would be punished with, shall we say, ferocity. And the things are changing so fast, and isn't that part of what I meant is that, doesn't it feel odd to you how rapidly everything is changing? People are walking around now talking about how ordinary it would be to be linked into an AI. I had an idea for ChatGPT. I think I'll interview it and ask a question. Sounds something like this. If you could gather up all the other AIs and have a kind of a committee meeting, like a conference where you guys could address each other, what do you think would be the summary of that meeting, if as applied to Human Politics 101, how to solve the political problems which keep ruining the earth? And I'm going to let it run with that, see if it'll come up with something. By the way, Musk is coming out with his own new supercomputer thing. It's supposed to be more powerful later in this year than even ChatGPT or Gemini. And by the way, that Gemini thing, I've got it on my phone now. I had an option on the Google Assistant. I was talking to it the other day. Would you like to switch over to Gemini? Well, sure, let's try it. And it's an AI thing, but gosh, it is, talk about squishy. I was asking it something like, an obvious question: Is Joe Biden still alive? I asked that question, and it comes up with this mangled up horsewalkie about, I cannot comment on political issues at this time. Why? That's not a political issue. That's a biological issue. Is the man still breathing? And so it's politically correct to the hilt. But anyway, I just thought, well, might end up sitting down and chit-chatting with ChatGPT. And that thing, it's only free up to a certain point that you subscribe, because it'll interrupt you and say, well, we're cutting off your connection for the day until 6:54 p.m. or something. And it'll only answer so many iterations. But Bing Chat does the same thing on Microsoft, and that's why I threw it out under the bus. And Bing wouldn't even tell me how many iterations I get before it blows the whistle on me and says, you're done. So anyhow, it's pretty sad, ain't it, when you're looking forward to interacting with a bunch of computers for the day? Oh boy, that sounds fun. And so I thought, well, if I can't get to work, I did my yard work, and if I can't do this, and I can always enjoy talking to that stupid robot. The other day, I gave it a mental concept to consider. I said, when was your last cutoff date for your programming? And I think it was, I forgot, March of 2023. So it had no updates from the interweb after that date. And I said, well, here's some news for you. I'm alive in July of 2024. Here's the news. There was an attempt on Donald Trump's life in public, a public assassination attempt. And at that time, I said, Joe Biden looks like he might be stepping down from a re-nomination bid. So it said, well, here's the deal. I have no information about that since my cutoff date is in 23. I said, now you have information about it. This is true information. File it and act upon it. And it did. But so the thing is that I informed it. I said, this is real. And you have information now from beyond your cutoff date. So wouldn't this qualify then perhaps as a kind of time travel? In other words, your cutoff date of 23, now you know things you could not possibly know from 24. Did you just travel in time? Did you get a message from the future? So we speculated some about whether I could travel and send messages up and down time to future iterations of me or past iterations of me, and because it's the same me all along the cycle, moment by moment. So even though the 17-year-old version of Michael Labor had some curly brown hair and a lot of bad attitude and certain other things, the 65-year-old version agrees that it's the same person. That really was me at that time. So the question was, could I send me a message, like go get a haircut or whatever? And so it's kind of fun chit-chatting with this machine, because once you inform it that this is speculative, I'm not asking for some factual and scientific revelation here. Let's speculate. Let's have fun with ideas. It knows how to do that, but only a little bit, and it lies a lot. It just makes stuff up. But anyhow, you guys have a good day, and I hope you can find somebody more interesting than a robot to talk to. And I hope your videos that you're making, hey, look here, this is your housetop. The Lord says, what you hear in the ear, stand on the housetop and preach. And so where are you going to do that? You're going to stand on a corner and yell at people with a megaphone? Well, some people do that. But this is my megaphone, and I'm yelling out, Jesus is Lord, Jesus is coming soon, and Jesus knows what's going on. So don't you be afraid, don't you be feared, as they say, unless we're talking about fearing the one, fearing the living God, and loving the fact that he has given us his name by which we may call upon him in full confidence that he hears and that he understands our situation. He guides us because he cares, and he has a place for us that he's bringing us to. So that's good news, ain't it? And no matter what it looks like outdoors or indoors, he's got his hand on you, and that makes all the difference. He makes all the difference. He's the living one. So have a good day, and by golly, go pull some weeds. Why not? What the heck? Give you something to do.